Oh, so.
Oh, sure. That's something.
All right, 7 o'clock already. Mr. Bissett's not with us. Everybody else is here. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Okay, Alex Bissett. Dan Gritsko,
Here.
Meredith Hines. Here. Bill Heisen.
Here.
Eileen Morse.
Here.
Eddie Payne.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor.
Yes, here.
Mr. Mayor, I just have to say one thing. We do have a set, just a different one.
A different Bissett. It's okay. Let's, ask you if you, like to stand and we'll have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 2 is the consent calendar, just the approval of the agenda, approval of all these minutes that we got from past meetings, approval of financial report for September, October, November. I know everybody hasn't had a chance to look over all this stuff. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Does anybody have anything they need to add?
Jim Bolton let me know I had a typo in the minutes for 13. I included a highlighted copy. You can table that item if you want to next month. And then we were not able to complete November. So if you could amend the consent calendar at your pleasure. Depending on what you want to do, council.
What is the council's pleasure?
Well, I move that we approve the consent calendar. Except for the September 13th minutes.
Is there a second?
And November 20th
In
also.
November.
A second on that?
I second.
Further discussion on that motion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Changes, we will. Agenda. Public forum, we're open to any members of the public that would like to step forward and speak to council for any reason it's on their mind.
I don't know that we need to. I see that our item, I'm sorry, Nancy Shifting, comes in at the rear here.
So. we get
Nancy Shifting on behalf of the Riviera Social, on where she's been. I don't know that we really have any additional comments to make. I know that we're in one of the items down in 7. So if you, unless you have any questions, it's our understanding that there is going to be something worked out this evening, hopefully that the council's got a plan. And so unless you have any questions.
I think we're probably going to have a discussion this evening and consider calling a public hearing next month. And after our public hearing, we can vote on that if we so desire.
Okay,
So
all right,
maybe we can finish this up in January.
that would be wonderful.
We're heading in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor's report is not a whole lot to add other than something really interesting. A lot of you know John Bowers. Mr. Bowers was instrumental in getting Canal Basin Square up and going. He was a real hard driving force behind that project. And he has made a donation to the town of, is it appropriate to say the amount?
Yes.
Okay, he has given the town a $5,000 donation, which doubles our budgeted amount for Canal Basin Square to be used to upgrade and do any repairs and restoration to the boats that are over there. So we just really appreciate John Bowers and his commitment to the community, and especially his interest in what we have talked about before as one of our major tourist attractions to Scottsville. So thank you, John Bowers, if you're listening. The other,
Let me ask you, you want the Parks Committee to look at, what to do with that, or does he have specific?
he
He
was.
said specifically for
He
something?
prefers that it be used for the restoration or any maintenance that has to be done on the boats.
Not those, because there's a lot of other things that need to be
Well,
done.
we still have the other 5,000 in the
Okay,
budget that
okay.
that can go to anything
Oh,
else.
good, okay.
Are we gonna send him a thank you letter or something
Yeah,
like
I've been
that?
sending him a
Yeah,
letter.
there's been-
I haven't called him.
That's
yet, but I'm
great.
gonna get a
Well, that's
letter out
great.
to him. Yeah, John is a real supporter of the town.
Yeah.
The other, thing I wanted to mention is that, Melody, our clerk, got a food drive going. And it was very successful, collected a lot of food items. There's been, I think, someone to the, to your.
A lot of bit of life,
project.
yeah, and they,
And,
and money for pastries too.
I think it just shows that, the people of Scottsville care for one another. And, they respond when something like this comes. So we thank you for all your hard work and food drive.
Yeah,
Thank
proud
you.
of her.
Just some people that can have a decent meal this holiday season without,
Thank Alex too.
you know,
Yeah, thank you.
and, thank Bread of Life for, doing what they do.
We just gave it out, that was the,
Well, we appreciate all everybody does for the town. Staff reports, Mr. Town Administrator, you want to start with number 5 there and talk about those things?
And before I move on to, the administrator report I have on authorization, I want to share this, since, I think we should give you a little bit of an update. They were able to collect 552 cans in box food, and then collect $545 in contributions. So that went to a lot of holiday pies for the family. So I think they did a really good job between James Goodworks, of course, Ministry of Life, and then the town. Melanie really put in the effort with her family too. So I know she wasn't gonna bring it up, but I'll bring it up with her. Beyond that, I think we can run into the report. I want it more just to be informational, because just getting a donation earlier than expected, I would have put this on for January. But I've reminded you during the work session, and it's in our administrator's report, that this fiscal year, we made a resolution for annual appropriations that includes 3 line items that require authorization by town council. I bring it up because it's been 6 months and we haven't discussed, our council has not discussed these 3 items. But as you can see, there are 4 included our annual resolution and budget, just so you can kind of take a look at it for homework. But beyond that, there's 3 line items that I think it would be prudent for you guys to discuss sooner rather than later. It's capital improvements for Canal Basin exhibit, which this budget year you had 5,000. Capital improvements for Bankley Nature Area, which you had 9,000 for. And then community development, local agency support, which is 3,000. So all I ask is that I provided a brief staff report with some information about it. And you just take time to think about it, but would be prudent for you guys in regards to financial responsibilities to start thinking about that. So we aren't rushed either. Some of this can be contract work, and it's never helps to be rushed trying to get a contract done. Or even just discuss some priorities, because Bankley and Canal Basin and local agency support can be a big topic. So I don't expect anything other than just a little bit of review of this and some time.
And what is the deadline for this? The latest we could decide, see, we could look at the budget and see if we have that money. Because we don't have to use this money unless we have it, right?
Well, well, what are you asking?
Well, I mean, as we go through the budget and see, well, we had a $7,000 surplus last year. So, you know, if we don't have a surplus, could we delay it or not do it if we at the, say, when we look at the budget in April and May, so we could say like, well,
I mean,
that's not gonna work.
The budget is council's action, but if you're looking at doing capital improvements, I would start discussing it earlier because it takes a little bit of while. Part of it is, I would suggest, is as much as overspending
Mhm.
is bad fiscal policy, also expressing to the public that you are going to appropriate this amount
Right.
is poor fiscal policy also. Because if not, we should take that money and just throw it into something and try to get some kind of investment on it.
Right.
Right.
I suggest you guys have that conversation. The
But what
way
I'm
that
asking-
appropriation.
What
is
I'm
set
asking
up.
is, so a deadline, like February, March.
When's the fourth quarter start, Javier?
Well, we'll start. It's next month, third quarter would be March. 'Cause we're
March.
June.
So-
For March then,
My guess is we should look at direction for spend by the end of third quarter, make sure that the money is still there, that and then appropriate, allocate that money to whatever is the cause. Can Parks and Rec look at that and make recommendations?
well, that'd be government service, I think. Because this is,
Well, I
Maybe-
would think it would be Parks.
well, this is only part of the thing is for parks.
Well, Canal Basin Square and Van
yeah.
Cleef would be
Right,
Parks, right?
Right,
And then local agency support perhaps.
Yeah.
But that would have broader input, I would think,
yeah,
than just government
yeah.
services.
okay,
But government services can certainly make a recommendation,
yeah,
right? What are the, top three
Yeah.
considerations and whatnot? What's the
So February,
recommendation?
March, sounds good.
I would say so, but I think knowing our track record. There's a reason I brought it up now.
Yeah,
It
right.
takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think February, March is now is a good signal to have something in front of council to make a recommendation and actually say, okay, this is where we want that money to go.
Why don't we shoot for the February meeting is to have some definites to talk about? And, that'll give us kind of an extra month buffer in case
Yeah.
we have to, carry it over to March before the fourth quarter.
I think
starts.
that's good advice.
Can we put it on the work session also?
Yeah, that's great.
And then. If there isn't any other questions about that, I'd like to share one other thing. So Bill sent an email, but just in case, you didn't check this afternoon. Bill was asking about those light poles, so when AEP switched out to the new LED light poles, we asked to hold on to the old ones. So we were able to sell, we have 35 light poles now, if anybody's interested. We sold 32 of the 34, there are 2 left. I know that the museum wanted us to donate one, and then I believe Stan wanted one, so we've held on to one. We sold them to 4 different sellers, as high as $75, as low as 25. It was, you got a deal if you bought as a lot.
Mhm.
So through email, I shared all that information.
Right,
But we ended up paying for those new banner installers with that.
great,
Total, what, 1,175.
excellent.
Okay, are there any other questions for the town administrator? If not, I'll ask, since Mr. Bissett is not here for ARB report, I'll ask Mr. Briscoe to head us off with committee reports.
Mr. Mayor, I covered everything last week. I think the main thing I would repeat would be, we are going to have a public engagement session this week on Thursday. We are still waiting for the time related to the Boys and Girls Club coming in here. There's also the other information. I think we pretty much covered everything on here. The recommendation of the planning commission for Liz, but that's also going to be covered down very lower. I think I would just leave it at that. Mr. Mayor.
Sounds, you have anything for us?
I have no updates for you tonight.
Okay. Mr. Heisen, Government Services.
We had a meeting that kind of went over it, but just for the public, I could say that we got, we've been looking at the $20,000 tourist grant, which we got. And it has to be used for, outdoor recreation. We're looking mostly at, using it in Van Fleet, especially around the dock area or grading there. I'm not sure what else we could use it for. It's still up in the air. We looked at the budget. And our chairman's going to be looking at capital improvements. It was suggested we have an update on the FEMA flood map. And also maybe to have a presentation here at the town council. We looked at the website and down the road, we'd like to improve that. The search function, have maps on there, how to function, particularly for Zoom. And have all the list of businesses in town on there. And with a little bit of maintenance, which we'll be doing next month. And then we also proposed a procedure for resignation of a committee and how to do that and how to notify that and when to advertise for that. So that's kind of what we looked at.
The one thing, Councilor Heisen, I'll mention on the businesses. At the time when we were gathering requirements, it was indicated to me not to list them all individually because they were difficult to maintain, and the town had tried that in the past, and was difficult to keep up with. But that would be also crossing into the chamber's territory. So to leave that for the chamber, and I believe that's the direction that we took, is to gather all the businesses from the chamber. That's not to say it can't be changed, but I just want to remind council that was the direction at the time.
Okay, but so you're saying that, but if you're not in the chamber, you still could be listed or
I think that's up for
up for discussion?
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't
Change.
matter one way or the other, but I think the decision was at that time is to not cross over into
Okay.
what is really the chamber's
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
wheelhouse, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know much
And,
about
the chamber is sort of in the middle of renewals of membership.
Yeah.
Year, so maybe middle of next month, I'll have a work session as to how that's going.
And that would be a great opportunity for us to, reach out to chamber and get a stronger partnership on that issue going.
James Walker will be the new president. He's the Bartlett
It's
Tree guy.
fabulous, yeah.
And so let's try to get him here for the work session to talk about
That's
this.
a great idea.
But it would be good to know, like, who's not in the chamber.
Yeah,
We could
the
look at
problem we have here in Scottsville is there are a number of independent people that have their own little businesses. Now, I work out of my house,
Oh,
but
so
I'm
you're
a
not-
member of the chamber, but there's a certain number of people that are like consultants,
that. Right, okay.
have businesses out of their home, but they
Right.
don't belong to the chamber.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing.
Well,
They may
and
not be registered with the town as a business. so
yeah, that's a good point
That's
too.
why they don't want to belong to
Uh-huh.
the thing.
I could share quickly, I met up with Stats to update our capital project improvement plan.
Mhm.
And during that meeting, they reviewed and saw that budget's on track.
The what?
The budget's on track.
Oh,
They
good.
reviewed it, yeah.
Yeah, oh, good. Yeah, that sounded like that, what we thought.
I'll make a note to ask James to be at our next work session, January work session.
Yeah, and we should probably make sure that's on the agenda, that we can talk to them.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Heisen?
Nope.
Thank you so much for that report. Ms. Morse,
Emergency preparedness, Jack's been doing a lot of work to finish up a number of maps for the town. Some are confidential, some are publicly available. Probably two top issues that the committee is working on right now are the adoption of E911 markers. I think you heard me talk about this at the last one, but I'll say it again for anybody who might be online. Those reflective markers for emergency personnel to readily locate a property in the event of an incident. So we're looking into funding of those, what they look like, where to place them, what other small towns do about them, etc. And we'll bring back more information to council in the future. And internet outages, how to deal with potentially serious. We've had a few this past year, even a few internet outages. So we're looking to work closely with some of the providers and maybe make recommendations on other provisions in the event of an outage, especially where emergency services are concerned. The committee is not meeting again until early January after the holidays, so there won't be any updates till next work session.
Are the maps gonna be posted on the website or posted period?
I think that's probably a question for town staff, like which maps get put on the website.
So the one that I know for sure would be public parking map, all the town parking maps, area parking lots. And the rest of them probably no can do. Because that's the one with the decoration though, and the parking lot be the ones that be.
Infrastructure, things like that.
Any questions for Ms. Morris? Mr. Payne, you got anything for us on anything? Anything on your mind?
I talked with, Chief Jenkins before he left town for his Christmas holiday. And I guess he'll be back here in the next couple of days, if he hadn't already gotten back. And I had an occasion to talk to, the other two officers in passing, and they're staying busy. I will bring this up because it was just, about 2:30 this occurred. And this is for the public and us too. Up in Dannemine neighborhood, right at Chester. The large white frame with the attached cottages. There was an accident in that curve this afternoon about 2:30. Somebody hit something as big as a school bus. No
Wow.
students on the school bus, just the driver and just the one driver. They were both standing talking when I passed them. I asked the one lady if she could move her car down a little bit because, it was in harm's way. But that's a really bad place there, and I'm sure as Dan can attest to, the traffic just keeps growing through James River Road. So everybody really be careful on that curve there. If you can get something as big as a school bus, you can hit something a lot smaller, so.
It is a bad place, in the road. We were coming back from a church thing last night and coming down Blenheim Road and then down James River, and with the weather like it was treacherous.
Yeah.
So, and then in a good, dry, clear day, James River over by Chester is treacherous.
Yeah.
The people come around there at like 40 miles an hour and they don't stay on their side of the road.
Yeah.
So.
And that's Scottsville, Albemarle County line there too, so I don't know who investigated the accident. We may hear more about it later, but that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Well, one caveat to that, with the construction on Red Hill Road, I would imagine we're getting some redirected traffic
We
through
may-
6 and whatnot, so we should pay attention to the numbers and
Yeah.
see if, if the accident history is increasing.
Let's try to remember to ask the chief at their next work session if
Yeah.
he has any statistics on this sort of thing.
Yeah,
I have a question, Eddie, about public safety. When's the next VDOT meeting? Or are you gonna have those regularly, the VDOT meetings?
I'd have to ask Javier because
Okay.
I don't know when they're scheduled. I don't know who goes, I'd like to attend too, sometime, but I don't know when it is.
The reason I asked, well, first of all, I maybe thankful for paving Warren Street, but it's a local citizen mentioned who's done some planning about maybe having a traffic calming at the car wash. And what he suggested is you should have like flashing lights, these maybe on both sides before that, so there's gonna be so much traffic coming in and out of that, and
Yeah.
that you take a sharp turn. And he said there's probably not gonna be a traffic light there, or not gonna be a traffic circle, but I don't know much about that, but it sounded like a good idea to have some like flashing lights right near the car wash.
Well, we don't know what's gonna happen there until, and that's the sad thing with a lot of agencies and VDOT. I know from personal experience that it takes something really bad or something that hits home before you have adjustments like that, especially being, an actual state highway. So let something bad happen there and it'll be lit up like a Christmas tree, but until then, we don't know.
Like dog catcher not being able to do anything about the dog till it
the
bites
bites,
somebody.
yeah.
Last dog catch I caught the dog, so.
All right, any other questions or comments from any of the committees or commissions? If not, I'll ask Javier to lead us into item 7.
Before, I forgot this for staff reports, but I think you guys have all noticed packets in front of you.
Mhm.
I want to give Melanie a little an opportunity just to chat a little bit.
We were just trying to give you guys some papers and pens so you can take some notes and, maybe. We're trying to cut down on how much we have to put in the minutes. It's not word for word or verbatim. It's just to give you guys an opportunity to take a little bit of notes and have it with you and be able to bring your stuff back and forth.
We'll do the same for, we already did the planning commission, but the meeting this month got delayed, we'll do it in January for ARB.
That sounds good.
All right, yeah, every little bit helps.
Just trying to make you guys give you a little bit more organization.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
For the public, item 7A, I included the same staff report that I shared out last week during the work session. I don't think there's been any other developments beyond that, but as stated, we had 2 vacancies in the ARB recently. We originally had this on agenda for last month. And then highlights, we had 4 applicants, Brad Barker, Sam Igo, Claire McMahon, and Stephen Meeks. Alex isn't here today, but the ARB provided a recommendation of Brad Barker and Claire McMahon. I included both of their resumes. I reached out to all 4, but they were the only ones who have returned them as of now. But there's a little bit of information. Yeah. Mayor.
So our next step is to entertain a motion to approve these 2 named individuals as the vacancy fillers for the ARB.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve these 2.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any further discussion on this motion?
What I'd like to say is, I'm not in the ARB, but having been on council for many years, I think it's wise that we take the advice of committees. So like this case, the ARB has recommended these 2, and I think it's wise that we accept them. And I think that's the good practice that we do that.
I disagree with that. I just don't think the ARB should be involved with that. I just think the town council should be involved with that, because I think it shouldn't be pre-selected, and it's really about town council's responsibility. I don't think it should be shifted to the ARB or the planning commission. That's my feeling, but that might be something we need to discuss further at another time. But I just feel like that's it's favoritism, and I think it's just a little more objective if we have somebody from the outside. I don't know if it's people, but looking at from that perspective, and not to cause any feelings if we didn't go along with what they recommended. The town council is not selected by our town council, and I don't think committees should be selected by, or commissions should be selected by the commission themselves. I think that's, anyway. But in this case, I think we don't know much about it, so, I'm fine with it.
Any other comments? It's been moved and seconded and discussed that we appoint these 2 people to the vacancies on the ARB, and I would ask for the clerk to call for a voice vote, please.
Mr. Gritzko,
Yes.
Ms. Hines,
Yes.
Bill Heisen,
Yes.
Amy Morse,
Yes.
Mr. Payne,
Yes.
Or any members of the ARB, now same thing. For the planning commission, we need a motion to appoint Liz Knox, who used to be a member of this body here and did an excellent job as a member of this town council. To fill the vacancy on the planning commission. Is there such a motion?
I'd like to make a motion first to just.
You got the floor first.
I'd like to make a motion to consider, or at least to consider Stephen Meeks, at least to discuss it. I know it probably won't go that way, but I'd like to motion that he be considered, because I think he wasn't considered last time, and he doesn't seem to be considered this time either. So anyway, that's my motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to Mr. Heisen's motion?
Second.
Well, now is there discussion? Mr. Tyson?
Well, my concern is that she was overlooked or dismissed last time, and there wasn't any discussion, or it was just turned around because we had a problem with, somebody changing their mind at the last minute. We're trying to change that, and I don't know, I know Liz is nice, anyway, she's real good, but I just feel like it might be good to have somebody who's done so much for this town on there and some new blood there. He rents apartments, he fixes up houses, he has Airbnbs, he knows his history of this town remarkably well. I mean, I think he really should be on ARB, but I just feel like he got dismissed or overlooked, and he seems to be doing it again. So I'm just taking up for the underdog, I guess. I don't know, for the person that was considered last time. And not that I don't have anything against Liz, but I just think that that should be, or maybe if he doesn't get in, that he be the alternative or whatever for the next time, because that's if somebody's wanting to be on a commission and put in twice on two different times and not given any consideration, I just think that's not a good message we're sending.
Can I make a follow-up on that? When we had the situation where someone resigned and Mr. Meeks applied, and then the person withdrew their resignation, did anybody else apply at that time besides Mr. Meeks? Did Liz not apply, or any of the other applicants? No, we're talking about the planning commission.
Planning commission, as I reported in my staff report, was Elizabeth Knopf and Stephen Meeks.
No,
this
we
was-
mean
No,
Shannon-
This was about
Prior.
4 months ago,
when
which
Shannon
When we had a
resigned and then
resignation.
when resignation, there wasn't anybody else then.
I don't believe it was.
I hate to add suspense, but I don't remember.
I don't remember anybody else. So that tells me something right there, not to say, situations change for people. I know Mr. Meeks is on the soil and water conservation. He was elected last November, and that's a position he served, I think, for over 20 years. So, he knows how commissions work, and maybe he could bring something to our little table from the big table. I don't know. Personally, I haven't talked with Mr. Meeks about this at all, but as long as both candidates, both applicants were treated in the same way as far as application and reviews, whatever process that was, that's a good thing. But if we left somebody out, that's a bad thing.
Did we get information from Mr. Meeks?
He didn't send back that information,
That to me sort of says something.
but I did forward you guys when he informed me that he had a meeting during the planning commission.
Right.
And let him know, hey, I have this information. The application, which is now called an information form, was more just to capture that information, so I'm not reporting out to you verbally.
Right,
I can more hand you something.
right.
Uh,
But I didn't see it in here, so.
but beyond that,
So he just gave verbal,
email. He sent
email,
emails,
sent email.
And then he let me know he wasn't able to
Right.
attend the planning commission meeting.
One of the things I guess I would say, and I think it is good that Mr. Meeks, has applied and that he has been wanting to be involved. I just, being somebody who has worked with Liz and having the planning commission recommend Liz, I have found her to be an extreme team player for the town and somebody who has been active in many ways, both with the council, although Mr. Meeks is somebody who's in the town and certainly has done things helpful to the town. I think going back to the same principle that I just said to you, it was a unanimous decision of the planning commission to recommend Liz, and I think in good faith, I think that's a wise thing to do, is to be consistent with what we just did.
Was his name even brought up? Was it, I know he wasn't there for the interview.
Yeah,
Oh, was he?
I mean, both people were considered. I mean,
Okay, so he was considered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, the motion is that we, Mr. Heiss's motion. Been moved and seconded and discussed, so I have to need to, if there any more, no more discussion, then we need to have a vote on Mr. Heiss's motion. So I'll ask the clerk to call the vote.
Can you repeat the motion again, please?
Yeah, confused what we're.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mr. Heiss, would you repeat?
Oh,
your motion again?
my motion was that to appoint Stephen Meeks as planning commissioner.
I thought it was just to discuss.
No, to appoint.
Oh, that was your motion?
Mhm.
I didn't hear that.
I think you definitely
Point,
said
discuss and
discuss appoint.
Yeah, you just,
What I was saying, can you read back what?
All
yeah, I have, Mr. Heisen made a motion to discuss Mr. Meeks
Okay.
for the
Right.
planning commission.
right.
So we have done that.
That's the way I
I'd like to make
understood
a
it.
motion to appoint him.
Well, Dan had a motion in
I had a
between.
motion.
Dan had the next motion.
So I'd like to make a motion.
You have an open motion right now.
Okay, so let's close out this
Okay.
motion for discussion.
Okay.
What do we vote on for
So
this?
Just to close it then, I guess.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
So if you wanna call, vote to close it, go for it.
Okay, vote to
Well-
close discussion on Mr. Meeks. Mr. Gritzka,
We did the discussion, so.
So I'm saying yes.
Oh, yeah,
I should have amended my motion. I made a mistake. My mistake. It should have been
it's
appointed
all right. Simone, you go to the-
Ms. Heiss,
Yes.
Mr. Heisen,
to discuss it.
to close the
To close.
discussion.
Oh, to close discussion. Oh, sure.
Ms. Morse,
Yes,
Mr. Payne.
Yes,
Okay, now the floor is open for a new
You
motion.
said that so I would like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we appoint Liz Knox to fill the spot on the planning commission.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Now we're open for discussion on that. Any discussion on this?
And I just want to reiterate what I said before. I do think Mr. Meeks has been somebody who has been active in the town. But I think in principle, again, going back to what we just did for the architectural review board, we went with the recommendation of the review board, which one of the reasons I will say, again, having been here a while, is most of the time we're short volunteers, and we really are indebted to the committees when they do work that's on the benefit of the town. And so in other words, when the committee makes a recommendation and does that, and again, I'll go back, I wasn't at the architectural review board, but I can tell you it was a uniform recommendation of the planning commission. I'm representing the commission, and that's the conscious of me, I'm representing the, so I think it's just good practice.
The other discussion?
The only thing I would like to make a comment on, Councillor Heisen, you said that there would be discord or potential problems if the commission or any other working body were to make a recommendation, and then the council would override it. I think from my perspective, it would be equally as discordant to have the council thrust somebody onto a committee that the committee had no input into that selection. So I think that goes both ways. So
Well,
that's
no,
my only
I don't
comment.
think that's true, because it's happened all the time, that somebody just shows up and they're on the committee or commission board without, in my experience, I've seen it happen over and over. Somebody resigns and the next time somebody shows up and the board or the planning commission has nothing to do with that at all. They don't even know that person. When I was the chairman of the planning commission, somebody showed up and said, well, I'm appointed. Here's how you do it. Here's the orientation. Here's what we do. Here's how we work. And we had no say in it at all.
And I'm sorry,
And the problem is it has, it's again favoritism. I don't think I'd want 5 of me on a committee, but if maybe 5 of Eddie on a committee would be
you
fine.
don't want 5 of me.
But I just think there's some, that it'd be good to have somebody who has some oversight from outside body, rather than just, you could give favoritism, you could have a friend, you could have somebody like of. And Liz, I mean, she's a Buckeye and, she's done well there and can't beat those Buckeyes, huh, Melody?
That's right.
But and I thought she did very well when she was on the town council. But I just feel like, that there needs to be oversight, and I would like to get rid of the interview process, which is really kind of new. But, you know, if Liz is the person, I'm sure she'll do fine, she's got experience, but she's done it before, so she's not done that before, but she's done town council, and I think she's responsible. And I
I
think
mean,
she,
to what end though? I don't know how your committee got appointed. Did you choose?
oh, well, this,
who's on your-
committees are a little bit than commission and the boards, committees are different. But I guess they could be like that, but the boards, they're special, you know, they're by law, these are not by law,
Did that apply to, public safety?
no.
So
no,
would we do
doesn't-
it to Chief Jenkins?
I don't know about that,
It's
but
the same, it's the
No,
same thing.
no,
Oh,
I don't
it
think you
is.
do it to team thing, you only do it for the
I'm
board
not saying
and
you
the planning
should,
commission.
but I'm saying if you're gonna do it for one as a matter of policy, you would do it for everybody. You can't
Well,
say, well,
well-
I'm gonna do this one, but not this one. And
Well,
I would be, I don't know, but has anybody ever, has the council ever said, here's a candidate for SVPD and you get this chief whomever, right? I can't imagine that's ever been done before.
Well, Ron, can you address that question?
When I was on
One thing
the,
I will say.
I would tell you, I wouldn't be chief very long if
Well,
somebody did that to
well,
me.
I'll say
That's
something to
important.
brag on our
Come on,
mayor,
sir.
but when we didn't have a police chief, he found one. But,
That's what I'm saying.
but I will say, no, we don't do that. That the role is, that's
Right.
It's a different role.
So it's not, but it's not without precedent
let
that
me
we
just
have
say,
that.
you know,
practice.
when I first got here, there was a vacancy on ARB. And there were 3 of us vying for that vacancy. And I was interviewed by the ARB,
Mhm.
Oh, you were,
and that was it. And I didn't get it, so that's when I went over to government services.
Okay, so there's
Well, I was gonna
precedent.
say,
Oh,
I'd
there
like
was.
to be on the government services committee. And,
I didn't know that, so
Yeah.
you did, you were.
so, actually, I think, George Goodwin got the ARB position, I'm not sure.
Oh, that's, I didn't know
Okay, well, that's good.
that.
I was interviewed by ARB.
Right.
Whatever they did with those interviews, I don't know. I just know that I didn't get the slot.
Yeah. All right, so we have,
Just looking at the.
Maybe government services can work on.
Well, yeah, maybe we come up with that, but I do think that
A
there's a
procedure.
different entity between ARB and planning commission and
But I
these other
think, you know,
committees, you know.
With, to me, a committee like your committee or
Yeah.
Eileen's committee, you're looking for people that want to help. How can I help? How can I help?
It's not,
And with planning commission and ARB, you need people like Mr. Meeks, who is knowledgeable in those areas. And so if the body like the planning commission feels like this particular candidate is knowledgeable in that and would do a good job, then they make a recommendation. And I don't think it's really, unless you find something in the person's closet somewhere that, like a skeleton, go with what the commission or the board recommends, because they know what they're looking for.
right.
So anyhow, we can work on that one. So, any more discussion? And when the motion is that, Liz Knox be appointed to the vacancy on the planning commission, and we'll ask for the, clerk to call for the vote.
Mr. Gritzo,
yeah,
Ms. Hines,
Yes.
Mr. Henson,
I guess I'll go no.
Ms. Morse,
Yes,
Mr. Payne,
No. With a lot of reservations.
Different budget.
So the motion passes 3-2. All right. So let's move on to these, items that, call for a public hearing on text amendments for these 2, conflicting, parts of our zoning ordinances, which, you would think somebody might have caught that along the way, but obviously they didn't. So we can have, do we need to call for 2 public hearings in January on this, for each one, or can we lump it into one?
yeah,
So you could have a motion to call a public hearing, referencing, chapter 11. And then you could have in that same motion it's a voice vote, I would just do it separate, recodification. One thing I do want to point out, I know that well, maybe for the record, staff recommendation following planning commission's recommendation is language in which, we strike through, special use permit on clubs, lodges, civic, fraternal, and patriotic. And include, as a permitted use, clubs, lodges, civic, and fraternal, and patriotic. One thing we haven't discussed is, to the mayor's point, when we were looking through this, we also have the same inconsistency with,
Fire marshal.
Fire.
rescue squad
Yeah.
stations. I just, again, we can clean it up now, or we can wait until we do our zone.
Javier, just a question, is, when you go back to this, first of all, thank you, but back to the staff recommendation for by right. The planning commission recommended, I'll just say X. Mr. Bowling said something like, don't do X lightly.
Don't get into
Nonprofit.
the language of nonprofit. And I
Nonprofit,
think charitable also, it's.
So
So that's out of what you have, right?
Yeah,
It's just a strike through of the special use, so that it becomes a permitted use.
So then, Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate if I said, or one of us said, we propose that we go with this, so we can call a public hearing with that as the idea, or not?
Yes, but naturally, this is your decision. I'm just providing a option.
Sure, oh, sure.
Following.
We have to
like,
make
the
a
definition.
So what is a possible motion that could be made, should someone entertain that
To
motion?
call a public hearing on a zoning text amendment referring to section 11. Yeah, B5. And then it's, if you want to include rescue squad, section 11 and 2J.
perfect. Well, my motion calling a public hearing for zone texting section 11.105B about clubs, lodges, civic, fraternal, patriotic, as well as a public hearing for zoning text amendment 11.10.
Sounds
Both of
like a
them.
valid motion, is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion on this? We can have that on the agenda next month and take care of it.
I just have one request. I've asked in the past, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but it's Nancy, right?
Yes.
I have asked for a description of the club with, I think you've mentioned about what their purpose is and what they do, and I think you said you would get that, and I have not seen it. So can we get a description of what the club is, just for general information? Would that be-
Well, so it's a social club that has that is. This group gets together, they have a membership, and then they are going to
Is there a charter? Do they have
there
any
is-
kind
there
of
is a-
formal
there is a
charter?
mission- There is a mission statement and
If you could just forward that to me, we don't have to cover it here,
okay,
but if you could forward that to, well, actually to Javier, and he can forward to the council, just so that we have that as background information going in, that would be helpful.
absolutely, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
So is there any other discussion on the motion that has been made by Mr. Heisen? It's been moved and seconded and discussed, and there's no further discussion, so we'll call for the clerk to call for the vote.
Mr. Gritsko,
Just so we're good, so yes and stuff, we're gonna have to hear, so yes.
Ms. Hines,
Yes.
Mr. Heisen.
Yes.
Ms. Morse,
Yes.
Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Thank you. That will be on the January council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank y'all for coming tonight. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, let us know.
Enjoy it, learning a lot about the town.
Tell Alex.
You want to join it, committee?
Tell Alex he needs
I
an
like-
excuse.
It's all right, just a minute.
All right, now, we have to call public hearing for the recodification of town code, is that correct?
Yes,
And can we do that on the same night?
yes, it would save us a little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more about that?
So-
Codification, I mean, is it?
So we contracted out before I even started here, specific, let's to do a recodification. So what that involved was a year of 2 attorneys, including ours and actually 2 over at Civic Plus. mostly with Matt and me a little bit going over our town code. And essentially recodification, you're updating to make sure that you're including code that has been approved by town council since the last recodification. And also going over state code to make sure that everything's referential together. So it's been reviewed. It's been worked on, and it's taken a little bit longer than we expected to get books back to.
Will we see the changes, like the code, and then like in red or something, that the new changes, or are we gonna see that, or are we gonna get a copy of this beforehand?
There was a transcript about 6 months ago that was our attorneys and their attorneys with Matt that went over with those strike throughs.
Is that available?
I guess, but
Okay.
yeah, sure, I'll share it.
That's what my question is it like each code, I mean, there's probably like hundreds of items, right?
Yeah, that's why.
And how do you even know which ones are being amended, I guess?
So what you're looking at is mostly what has changed in the VA code and see what,
Okay, so they're just getting in line with. So,
essentially, it's like you're looking at what doesn't conform and.
oh, okay, so it's more conformity.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing that's really substantively changes it in a way that I would be concerned, especially with so much staff work on it.
Mhm.
Some of it is just old ordinances that you guys have approved getting put into a book.
Okay.
And then what will happen is that after there's a recodification, we're set up to also have our town code on the website.
Okay.
Now, when was the last recodification? Just, I'm just curious.
European probably gets some of their-
Okay, that's ballpark.
I'm gonna wait for the movie.
So we,
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, this is not something that's gotta go before the folks down in Richmond, is it?
no, that'd be much.
That's a charter. So this stays in-house.
so there are copies of this new, revised town code in the office, and there's plenty of them to go around, so grab one and read it if you want to. But,
I believe I shared a draft that Jim helped me out with, the ordinance for the notification. I can't remember.
we can, we don't have a motion yet, so is there a motion to, have a public hearing on this free notification of town code at our January council meeting?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And any other discussion on this one? Okay, may I have the vote?
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Ms. Hines,
Yes.
Mr. Heisen,
Aye.
Ms. Morse,
Yes.
Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, talks about policies on resignations on the ARB and planning commission.
All right, so I've been doing work in between last Monday and this one. Government services, a while back, I believe, shared me a draft, I don't know how far back though. On a policy for resignations. I took notes during our last work session. And kind of synthesized a document that I thought might be useful for you guys. So what I'm sharing here, more for, just so you have a copy and you're able to discuss it, it is a 1-page. That I think captures everything I heard about, when you want the resignation process. So it's probably the second to last document in your packet. Really don't expect any action, it just felt like a low hanging fruit in between the notes and having a draft government services provided to us.
Would this, back to the application, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Javier. This would go to government services for them to recommend, like if they want to update it at all.
We could do that, what I provided first,
I mean, just, yeah, it seems like a good idea.
You can look at it, yeah, but I think it's pretty good what you got, pretty much, so it probably would be good to have them look at it, yeah, it's just,
yeah, I don't expect action, so I think we have.
okay, all right, I'll do that, and we'll do also the interview thing. Maybe give us something to do in January.
Any other discussion on this item?
So this was only provided for information.
Yes,
Okay.
But, I mean, why can't we vote on it, because this was already reviewed by the government service, maybe, can't we just vote on this? And get this out of the way?
at the council's.
I would like to just get, we.
I'm sorry, you're saying the application?
No, I'm talking about the resignation policy.
The policy.
The policy. This has been on for a couple months, I guess.
Well, this is a new draft of the policy, right? I think,
No.
We
No.
draft. Government Services shared a draft with me.
I thought it was wordier than this,
No.
what I saw from government services.
It ended up being about the same.
Okay.
length. I have it in my office, but
Okay, so basically, when a board declares the resignation, as soon as it's sent to the town administrator or to the town council, it's considered accepted, right?
Yeah.
And then following the distribution of the resignation, the town administrator posts a notice on the website notifying the public of the vacancy. Board or commission member following their resignation shall apply as a new applicant for the vacancy if they're interested. This policy does not exclude the ability of town council to reinstate a board or commission member.
Just a technicality question on this.
Mhm.
Sometimes people, when, I mean, haven't unfortunately seen many versions of this. So sometimes people are like, sorry, I can't do this anymore, bye.
And they've done it.
That's one version. There's another version which is like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be moving in 2 months. And I can only be till then. And is it okay the way this is if somebody says, okay, I can do it until June 15th or whatever, and then that's okay to do it that way? I'm only.
I think that would be part of the resignation.
Yeah, so they would
It would be
say,
a resignation effective
Yeah.
June 15th.
or whatever that.
Yeah,
That
or
makes-
whatever, yeah, whatever. the
Yeah,
date
that
is.
sounds good. That makes sense.
Okay, just.
Well, let's put that in here specifically so that it's very clear
Okay,
'Cause it-
that the resignation should have an effective date.
so we could put when a board or commission member declares their resignation,
And effective,
whether immediate or with an effective
yeah,
date.
right.
Because again, sometimes people give you, that, you know, I'm moving or I'm gonna be away or whatever. Versus somebody like, fine, I'm done.
The
Yeah, I mean,
only sentence I don't like is that once the declaration of resignation is received by town council, the resignation shall be deemed as accepted by. town
Yeah,
council.
that's
I think we need to vote on it, but we're not gonna say no, or you can't resign, we're gonna vote to accept the resignation, but it still needs to be a vote.
Yeah, I do think as a matter of formal procedure, it should be voted on.
That way you won't have, well, you never voted on it, so I'm not, I decided
Yeah.
not to resign, you
Yeah.
never voted on it.
I think the intent of this, though, if I recall, the discussion was to streamline it. So we're not waiting 3 months to get a new person in there, that it's accepted. You could post something and then you could get somebody. And, you know, so they're not a vacant seat for a month or two, like they are
Yeah.
with this ARB. So part of it is,
We need to vote on it. I
Yeah,
think it could be
just-
emailed to
yeah,
us because if somebody resigns tomorrow. Just say somebody
Right.
resigns
I'm
from
done.
planning commission tomorrow,
Right.
that will be a whole other month before you can even start to look at a new applicant.
yeah,
And like the mayor said, we would never force somebody to stay in a position they don't want to stay in. So, you know, we don't have to vote on their
Well, that makes-
resignation.
As a compromise, could we say this, that should be confirmed via email or otherwise by the town council that they have received it, thus deeming that it is accepted? Is that,
Why don't we say?
No, I think once it's
I think it's
disseminated
good.
to us, it's our fault if we don't see
No,
it.
but
I
I
like
think, I think the
like-
mayor has a very valid point, that as a matter of formal procedure, right? If somebody comes back and say, well, you didn't vote on it, right? You
That's
never
the only thing
voted
that
on it.
concerns me is
Yeah.
somebody's gonna come back and
Yeah.
raise a stake because they say, well, you never voted on it, and I don't want to resign now.
But if you send me something that says, okay, so-and-so resigned, I send back, okay, I'm fine with the resignation, then I would consider that my vote to accept the resignation, and then each
I think
councilor. would have to-
we're making it more
Me too, I
complicated than it needs to be.
We
I
just-
think you ever see that Seinfeld episode when George quits
Yeah,
and
but I-
then he shows up the next day at work and says he was joking, you know? If somebody resigns, they
you
resign.
can just show them this
And
policy.
you know, Javi can send out an email to all of us, so-and-so resigned.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think we need to vote on it, I don't think we need to. I mean, we can acknowledge it, we don't have to, like, if I don't acknowledge that email, that doesn't do anything to the fact that this person resigned. They notified their commission, they notified the town administrator, we were sent an email about it, it's done, that person.
Yeah, there's just,
Resign.
and I don't disagree, Mary, there's just a formality about, you know, civic procedure that this seems to fly in the face. It's the tension between doing things in an immediacy and doing these things according to some sort of procedure. You know, I don't know if Mr. Bowling would have, you know, some advice. Usually he says, well, it depends on what the council wants to do.
And I recommend this since at the moment, we don't know of any pending thing at the moment. Could maybe either the committee and maybe you, Eileen, the two of you, because you're a procedure person, just whatever makes sense. Just whatever makes sense to it, but in other words, it seems like it needs a few more minutes in the oven, not many.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't know of anything happening, and I think we had a weird situation that happened, and it does make sense. We create some way to not have that weird situation.
I think there just needs to be some formal notification or some.
Why don't we work on this, and then at the next work session, we'll see what we have, and then we'll January council, we can accept.
No,
this.
that's-
We'll define it or whatever we want to do.
So maybe we could put something in how, well, it does say verbal or in writing.
Well, that's how they give it to us, but how do we acknowledge? That's my only point, Bill. I'm not
Oh,
trying
how
to
the town
hold it.
council acknowledges?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like if somebody was hired, right, you would still want to have a formal vote on that, right?
No,
Even though it's more
I don't know.
expedient to just
I-
say, They're hired.
I'm gonna say there's a certain town council that I'm gonna leave anonymous at the moment, but we're desiring in the spirit of Christmas to leave soon.
Looking at the clock, thinking, yes, it's gonna be less than an hour.
I just like, to me.
Sorry, Meredith.
This sentence, to me, this sentence says that,
Okay, what's that?
is that the one that says the corporation is, that the resignation shall be deemed accepted by the town council, maybe not everybody on town council wants to accept it.
no,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because they submit it to
Yeah.
town council doesn't mean it's a unanimous acceptance of their resignation. There could still be somebody or two on the council that say, no, I don't think you should resign, I don't think you should resign.
we should go back and talk to this person and try to change their mind or
You
something.
can't
I
say
don't-
just because somebody gave you a piece of paper that everybody on the council agrees.
Yeah, that's what I don't like.
The problem, and I guess this is the problem here, is you gotta wait another, sometimes a month to vote on this.
Well,
So let's say somebody resigns today,
I
you gotta wait
understand what you're saying, I just
so
don't
like, we can't post anything until next January? You know, it's-
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, what I'm saying is that if I was a council member like you guys, and somebody submitted something. I don't want to be lumped into everybody accepted it.
Right.
Maybe I didn't want to accept.
Right,
but if the thing is, if you have it in writing or an email, it seems like that's their decision. So it's there already.
Can we, instead of, saying, using the word accepted, can we say something like
acknowledge,
acknowledge
yeah. We acknowledge the
the
resignation.
resignation?
Acknowledge.
The one thing I was just gonna say, and I'm saying this too, I have talked to people before saying, like, just putting this in perspective, going back, most of the time we have trouble filling positions, so we
Right.
said, will you please stay, will you stay longer,
Right.
or, you know, can I give you a cupcake if you, I mean,
But that has to be done before it gets to Javier and town
Sure.
council. You can still do that in this
well,
process.
sometimes.
I would just want an email to say, I've received it, I'm aware of it. If there's any glitch in the email that I didn't get it, I want to make sure that somebody says, hey, I got acceptance or acknowledgement back from everybody, but not Eileen. I should reach out to her, make sure she knows this is going on. That's the only thing that I would be concerned about in a digital age, you know?
Yeah, I hit that I agree button at the bottom all the time with that,
Yeah.
you know.
I opt out.
I try not-
Yeah.
Don't do that.
So what's the recommendations?
Why don't we just see if we want to make any changes to this and at our next work session, if anybody has any ideas on how we want to change this, otherwise we'll put it on the agenda to vote for it to, as part of our, policy.
Yeah, Bill, maybe you can ask government
Okay.
services in the
Well-
meantime, if they have a recommendation on how to deal with this specific issue.
What's the issue?
Well, the issue is about individual acknowledgement or acceptance on the part of town councilors. How do we do that in an expedient way? I mean, can it be done with just an email confirmation to say, I acknowledge receipt of this and that the, you know, the resignation has been tendered or something, right? We just want it clear that each individual
Or you can
town
put-
councillor
Or
should
can you
be,
put something like, once the resignation is received by town council, the resignation shall be deemed as the, wishes of the, submitter and cannot be withdrawn.
yeah,
Or something like that.
right.
That way you don't.
Where it's not speaking for the whole town council.
Say,
I like
uh,
that.
Something to the effect that a letter of resignation indicates that, that is your intention and it cannot be withdrawn.
Yeah. I like that. I like that much better.
Can we just put that in there now and get this done with?
Come back and present it at work session, we'll put it on next month's agenda. All right,
And hopefully we won't have a resignation between now and then.
all right, what's this last one? Revision of
Oh, there's a last one?
Yeah, so I know how to read a crowd, so I could do the same thing as.
No, what is it?
So I think I just drafted this quick application to share information.
Oh,
about
yeah,
it. I heard, from town, council, they wanted a revision, so I have on the top a, draft I shared out with you guys during town council. And then I talked with Bill today over email, and he provided some recommendations on how to tighten up that,
Just format, really.
yeah, format really. So it's a little bit tighter, one page, and I switched to information sheet, which I think
Right.
reflects the intention of it better, rather than the quick application I made.
And is it required? Is mandatory, this
The
information sheet when you apply?
whole thing can be, I'm bringing it up for you. The one thing I didn't leave at the top was position slot, name and email, just because it makes my life easier with correspondence. I think the whole thing can be optional, but I wanted to share it with you guys because we discussed last week. Might be appropriate just to discuss it during January, what kind of process you guys want to have this town council, but I want to provide tools. So you can-
I don't see any problem with, asking somebody that wants to take a position on anything to say, well, why do you think you should be on it? And then you get a little bit of background information on it. So just like,
As long as all the NPI, the non-public information is not mandatory, right? Because we have to secure all that information
Yeah.
if we're asking for private or personal information, right? So if it got out or whatnot, and I'm not sure we're in a position to, from a records management perspective, to secure all of this. So as long as it's voluntary and they give it and we have to label it accordingly and protect it at least to some degree, but you know, it may be a caveat, we cannot, you know, I don't know about guaranteeing the safety and security of information.
I know at the rescue squad, we took applications and we filed them away and locked them up.
Yeah, but you know, the file cabinet starts to get, and the file room
Oh,
starts to
yeah.
get pretty full pretty quickly, right? Over records, we don't even. I mean, some of those things that are probably in records room, we haven't looked at in years and years, so.
I can do some research. I kept it shorter to things that I think would have become public record.
Yeah,
So
right,
most of that is, you know.
things you can Google.
Yes, or things that would have been discussed in some time between, possible applicant, your town administrator and town council. I can look into those questions and bring some back during work session.
What were the changes, Javier,
Well, I
between the
think-
first draft and the second
I
draft?
think it's just looking at the
Format.
format and the simplified, make it a one page.
Yeah,
And,
okay,
And also, just to have the essential information at the beginning.
Mhm.
That you have to, this is required, the name, position shot and email. And then the rest of it is, voluntary, but there probably ought to be something there says that.
Well, it's-
the things in
Well, what you can do is just put an asterisk.
Yeah, that's
But
what.
They
you
are
you
doing.
already did.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
you-
that's
I think it's
volunteer.
good. I
Well,
think
the
so.
one thing that might be missing is it says here education and degrees of, or training, but it doesn't say employment experience. Because a lot of people apply with relevant employment experience and not necessarily education. So I think you might want to add another asterisk for that they can put anything educational, training, or experience that is relevant for this position.
Volunteers.
Yeah, any kind of
Got that.
experience.
That's
Well, that's on
that's
the,
in there, volunteers,
that's on the town administrator draft.
there is volunteer expense.
Yeah, but that's not, is that on the second one? I
Yeah,
don't see
yeah.
it.
I snuck it into the second to last question.
Second last question.
Profession, rather than
Yeah.
professional memberships or private volunteer, okay. Not a lot of room for writing, though.
Take your best.
Yeah, I kind of,
Tiny little.
I know you want it to be one page, but I kind of like the first version better, just
No.
because there's more room to write.
Yeah, I don't
things
think
out.
it should be an application like the Java, it's just
It's
like,
not, but
if you're
the,
interested.
the questions are exactly the same. on
Yeah.
both of them, But it's just that there's room to write the
You
answers
don't have
on
to
the
write
first one.
it, since it's, they can just have all this extra.
All right, well, prior volunteer experience for me would not fit on one line.
Right.
And I think somebody willing
And
to
it-
do a position like that isn't gonna fit on one line either.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it's all the-
employment or
it's all
other
the
stuff.
same questions, the fact that it
So a
goes
few
on.
more lines there.
Yeah, like that's. I think Javi's draft is almost exactly the same as yours, it just has more room
Well,
to write your answers.
well, a few more, yeah.
So I would just write, and you just lump it all into one, employment, training, degrees, or prior experience that would be applicable to this, period. End of story. That's what I would recommend,
Asterisk.
You want me to
with
take
an
it?
asterisk. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
No.
Okay, well, try to tidy this up and have, at our work session in January and have it ready to, make a decision on it for the council meeting in January, and that'll be that.
Okay.
Anything else on anybody's mind?
Well, next month is the annual meeting, are we gonna do that the same day?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose so.
Yep.
Plan that for the.
So that'll be,
Council.
Yeah, last year.
Is that-
you just
that's
did
not
it in a
closed,
regular
is it?
session.
That's not closed yet.
No.
So
No.
we just talk about.
Meeting
schedules,
schedules,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Second time for meetings.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
We'll do that last. We'll do that last, right?
what during. regular-
Annual meeting part,
Yeah. After everybody's gone.
after the
They
public
don't-
hearing, and all that
Yeah, they
stuff.
don't care.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it would be action. would be the
Yeah.
same.
Just something like that we talk about. See if we
Anything
want,
else?
see if we can call it off during December, on Christmas.
15
All
minutes
right,
past
well-
your,
I hope everybody has a
Not
happy,
too bad.
whatever you happen to celebrate.
yeah.
Thank
Next
you.
couple of weeks, and, happy new year, and we'll get back together in January, and several things coming up that we can make some decisions on. How about that, so. All right.
Oh, but-
Slow but sure.
We're also
Who's making the
doing a closed
motion to
session.
close?
That we
Well, we're gonna.
close this meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
Happy holidays.
See you next year.
I can go see the kickoff.
There you go.
Good date.